Okay, so I was asked to demonstrate how to have a bonus score based on time. So if the player completes this really quickly, they get a larger bonus. If they take too long, they get a diminishing bonus or perhaps even a penalty if they exceed the allotted time. So a couple things we have to do. One, we're not tracking how many objects remain. So we're going to have to do that. And two, we're going to have to track time. So let's go to our click control script, and the reason for that is because we're already tracking in the on mouse down section if an object has been clicked on. So it's easy enough just to modify that so that it reduces the variable that's going to track how many objects remain. Okay, so at the top of click control, we're going to paste in 3 variables here, and I'll walk through all 3 of them. This is just so you don't have to see me type. Public static int total score, pretty self-explanatory. This is going to be the score that the player gets for the level. Public static float time bonus equals 90. So in your game, you're actually going to set this much higher. You're going to give them 5 or 6 or 7 minutes, whatever, to complete the area. And it'd be in the denomination of seconds, not minutes. So this wouldn't be 1, 2, or 3. This would be seconds. So 5 times 6, 60 would be 300. 10 times 60 would be 600, that kind of thing. And it's important to note that this isn't actually seconds yet. This is just the number 90. But we're going to track how many seconds pass and reduce it accordingly. Public static int remaining items 7. Currently there are 7 items, and so we simply set it to that number. Go ahead and save that. Now, as we said, on mouse down already tracks when an object is clicked on, so this is where we're going to want to do the decrease. So, when we destroy the object that's been clicked on, we also want to have remain items minus equals 1. So that variable gets reduced by 1. Okay, so we've created the 3 variables, and now we reduce the remaining items variable by 1. Now we just have to track time and then detect when this reaches 0. So let's go ahead and do that in the tracking clicks script. The reason why is because this is the script that we said we're using kind of like a GM, because it's going to have this connectivity code where something doesn't necessarily associate with any one object. So, we said that we need to track time. And since that variable is declared here in click control, we need to address that script. So, click control dot time bonus minus equals time dot delta time. So, update runs once per frame, as this says. What this does, it says how much time has passed since the last time this is run. If you remember from math class, delta is change in time. So what is the change in time? Subtract it from the total bonus, and as we said, the total bonus starts at 90. Now, that just tracks time, how much time has passed. If click control dot remain items equals 0. So when there's no more remaining items, we want something to happen. We want the score to be set. So click control dot total score plus equals let's give them 10 points per object, and we said there's 70, so no math for that variable. We'll just put it as a constant 70 plus another parenthesis math f dot round to int. Now the reason why we're doing this is, if you recall, we said time bonus is actually measured as a decimal, because this number here is always going to be less than 1. So we're having this be decreased by a decimal, but now we're trying to modify an integer by it. So what we have to do is we're going to have to round what remains of time bonus to an integer. And that's click control dot time bonus. If you don't do that, you'll get an error, and it'll say that you cannot implicitly convert a float to an integer. So unfortunately, it makes it a little bit messier than what I'd like it to see, but just the takeaway is that you're simply converting an integer, you're converting a float, a decimal, to an integer. So that's the real takeaway from that. And this does not like this because we're missing a parenthesis. Let's save it, make sure it doesn't give us an error. Okay, don't have to worry about that. That's actually for a separate project. So now we just need to take that total score and have it be transferred to a score object. So game object, create empty, call this score txt, add component, mesh, text mesh. We will do what normally do. We'll change the character size somewhere between 0.15 and 0.20. All depends what you're doing. Font size, let's make this, I think we'll just put it in the upper right corner. Let's make this like 24. And the font will be Arial. And just so we can see what it looks like, let's put score and we'll add a colon, although it's not necessary. You'll see how we're going to change it in script. Okay, now I believe the dorm object, okay, that's at -5, so when you create a new object, it defaults to order layer 0, so this should not get covered by the background. So almost done. Now we just we're going to have to take this score and transfer it to that object. So to do that, the object that this script is attached to needs to be aware of this object. So dorm, we said, is what the script is attached to. So dorm needs to be aware of the score object. So the way we do that is we're going to add a variable for it. So public transform score obj, and like I said, that I try to use a consistent naming convention. Whenever I end a variable with obj, it's letting me know that it's an object. So we click on dorm, and now you see score object. So we'll move it there. Now with track and click, we can now alter what that text reads. So when score reaches 0, we want score object dot get component text mesh dot text be set equal to score. And this is what I was saying about how we're going to modify what that name is, so we didn't have to really worry about putting it in there to begin with. So score, and then the plus sign, because you're going to create a concatenated field. You're combining strings and variables together. And this has to be click control dot total score. And I believe that should do it. So in retrospect, I guess we really do need to do what we did here by predefining this as appearing as the word score, because otherwise there'd be no score, it would be blank, and then suddenly the word score would appear. So we kind of want to be consistent with our display. I think that should do it. So let's run it. And actually it disappeared. Let's check to see if there's an issue with the camera. Yeah, it appeared way out here, and this happens sometimes. I'm not sure why. But if you ever have an issue where an object seems to be in the right order in the layer, but for some reason appears wrong, the reason for it is because here's the camera, and here's the object. It's actually behind the camera. So if you notice position, it's -10. So technically, you don't have to rotate that. That's just an easy way to see it. You could just look here and say, oh wow, for some reason the Z is -10. There we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Score did not appear. So what happens is when you're clicking on the orbs, this is being reduced, but this is not being reduced. So we're reducing the amount of orbs in the screen without actually reducing the number. So it needs to be in both places. Okay, so it keeps changing though, so we're almost there. So this happens, and then it keeps happening. So what we can do is we need to make this false, or else it keeps returning a true. So it needs to be set to false. So to do that, we'll just click Control, remain items. Equals, and we'll just say -1. That will stop that from being true. That's really just kind of a stopgap solution, because ultimately you're probably going to exit the scene and have like some kind of bonus, some kind of tally screen saying what their bonus is. So there we go. So that is a score based on time. So it looks like there were 82 seconds left because we gave them 70. 70 plus 82 is 152. So it looks like there was about 82 seconds left. So there is the scoring portion.